All right. Hello and welcome to episode 291 of Together BHA. It's Robinho and I. Adam will be coming in shortly. He's just vacating some party at a neighbor's house or something like that. I think it is, Robin. How are you doing? It's obviously 10 o'clock here, 5 o'clock in these states. Well, if you're on the East Coast. But we're with a late night show tonight. So how are you feeling?
All good. I think it's we've done a couple of these, and I feel like it's much better to do it on the day of the game, whilst your memory is kind of fresh, especially for you having been there. But yeah, as I can normally barely remember what I had for breakfast, talking about something that happened today gives me a better chance of not talking even more nonsense than normal.
Yeah, it's glorious. It's like I love these away days in the Midlands because they're obviously so close for me. Like it was just an hour up the road, really.
Yeah.
So like they're always the best. And today was beautiful weather. I cannot remember the last time I went to Wolves in a day game because obviously there was the cup game last year where it was nighttime. But I can't remember last time we went to Wolves on a day where it hasn't been swelteringly hot. Like it's just the way it is.
Right. The Matoma one, I'm trying to think. We went there just like the promotion season from the Premier League where Knockout scored twice.
That was a beautiful day.
Yeah, and again, the Matoma one.
The Matoma one,
beautiful.
I was there for that one. Gorgeous day.
Yeah, you're right. We've got a good record there as well.
We really do. Like I remember even going all the way back to when we would sit in, for those of you guys that have been traveling for a long time, you'll know like where we all actually used to sit in the south stand instead of on the edge. And you would sit on the end, really high up. And even then, like I remember we were like bottom of the championship and we were still coming away with a point thinking like that's a good point to take, like, and they're getting promoted. So we do seem to enjoy playing Wolves at their place in general, don't we? It's one of those weird bogey teams that we've got in our favour as opposed to a Fulham, say.
And they're I don't know how you found it today, but whenever I've been there, they're a really nice fan base as well.
I literally was about to say the same thing today, just to give them their due. There is never a time where I've felt like I'm in a dodgy area with Wolves where it's just like, oh, like I don't want to like show up in the wrong spot with the wrong person. Like walking back after the Everton game is a very different experience to the one walking back after Wolves. They are generally, as fans, like really lovely. Never had a bad experience with them. We did have a couple of fans today really let themselves down in the Wolves stand, but like that's just idiots being idiots. There was a real tragic moment about halfway through the first half, I think it is, maybe even the second half. It was so hot it all merged into one. Big fella, absolutely losing his mind at the away support, right where we were, because we were right at the end where Gruder scored. And he was just losing his mind for ages. And then all of a sudden the police went up and removed him. And like, it's funny, right? Like, haha, like you're an idiot. Like penultimate home game of the season in a game that means nothing for you and you've got yourself kicked out of the stadium. Like, what are you thinking? The tragedy occurs when his wife and 3 kids follow him out.
Oh, that's not so nice.
It shouldn't matter, but they're all girls too. Like he's done the hard work, right? He's got 3 young girls interested in the footy. They're all in their Wolves shirts and they've just watched dad get kicked out because he can't handle his emotions. And it's like, oh, like that sucks. Like, come on, guys. Like, it didn't even mean anything for Wolves today, really. Like, I mean, unless we're talking about like taking the prize pot seriously, right? Like, is the £6 million they're going to earn from finishing 13th to 14th going to matter? Not really worth getting booted out of a stadium for.
No, not at all. Not at
Absolutely all. Mental.
I think Wolves was similar. I think was there that one where I think it might have been last season, the season before. There was a guy in the hospitality bit right behind the away fans, wasn't there?
I tell you what, I think it's our fault because we sat at that end last year, and we were like 4, like we were literally right. If we just turn around here, he was right here, and he lost his mind, wasn't he? That's for sure.
100%. Oh well. But generally, I was saying to someone earlier, I remember speaking to them, Wolves fans at the Amex after they'd gone down from the Championship. I think we beat them like 5 or 6-0 on the day.
Yes.
And it was them getting. I
Is
didn't
it the
realize till the
Pascal
other day.
Gross goal? Like unbelievable.
No, this is in the championship.
Oh, okay, got it.
When they were going, they were doing. I didn't realize, but it was back-to-back relegations from the
Mhm.
Premier League to. I think it was Jamie O'Hara was playing for them, and I remember speaking to Wolves fans. They've literally just suffered like back-to-back relegations, and they were still like the most sort of down-to-earth and sort of reasonably minded fans you'd come across, and you've literally just been on the back of something that hardly anyone's ever done, going from the top tier to the third tier, and they were like still quite not chilled about it, obviously, but like able to have a rational conversation about it.
Yeah, pleasant enough fans.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna need it. We'll talk about it today, but I mean, when Cunha leaves, like, they better get reinforcements in stat because they have not got much else going on, I don't think. Let's talk starting 11 then. So for the Albion, a couple of changes, couple of things to talk about in general, really. Verbruggen, Estepinian, Webster, Van Hecke, Wieffer. Well, I mean, let's talk about it now. Player of the season, Van Hecke. Young player of the season, Carlos Baleba. Ayari, O'Reilly, Minte, Lamptey, and Welbeck up top. So we had quite a few changes. And we also then had Adingra, Hinshelwood, Gomez, Mitoma, Gruder, Cashin, Steele, Julio, Igor Julio, and Howe on the bench. No Dunk at all. No Veltman at all. Solly March is now done for the season. Somewhere between pre-season and the end of the year return. We don't know. But he's cooked himself again. It looks like another one on his knee. Hertz said he had a cleanup, which is never a fun conversation to be had there. Feels very Jose Izquierdo, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think he's also, I mean, he's 30, nearly 31. And obviously Izquierdo was a few years younger as well, wasn't he? I mean, he was 26, 27. It's obviously such a shame for Solly because he's looked, I mean, we've talked about it the last few weeks. He's looked so good in his kind of cameos. The only thing that bugs me slightly is like he gave an interview, I think after one of his cameos, where he was like, he's miles away from being able to start a game. And then he promptly then started a game. So you kind of wonder whether has that, I mean, obviously they know far better than us, but it does seem a bit odd when he's like, no, I'm miles away from starting a game, starts a game, and then has another problem. Like you can join the dots of that. Yeah. I'm not suggesting that's 100% right, but you can logically join the dots of that.
No, absolutely. It is a weird run, isn't it? It's a strange timeline of events, I guess would be the word. Yeah. And I mean, obviously no Dunkey, no Veltman. Webster immediately deputizes, as is the right thing to do, given he's been fit and informed for a while. Igor is still coming back. Don't want to rush anything there. And it would just be bad squad selection, right? To just have Igor jump over the top. And Mitoma looked like he was set for a start, but only came on off the bench. Think we're just not risking him for the rest of the season? What do you think the Mitoma situation is?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? You kind of wonder whether he's obviously, it's still his back, isn't it, that's struggling. And that is, if anyone that's ever had a bad back, it is one of those things. It's so unpredictable.
Every millennial.
Yeah, you can wake up on some days, you know, like you could wake up and be 100% fit and good to go, but you could just wake up the next day having not done anything different and just be basically infirm. So it's like, you know, it's a really tricky injury. I think part of me probably thinks that ideally they've probably looked at this run of fixtures and gone, the Wolves game is on paper the easiest of the three. So if you want him to if you want him to be available, like it's not a game where we're risking his fitness. Possibly the Liverpool. I mean, it's really difficult because Brentford have got Fulham next week, haven't they? Which is a bit of a kind of shooter. I know we'll probably come onto it later, but it's kind of deciding where's best to, like, you sort of ideally you might hold him back for the Spurs game, but only if there's something still riding on it. It's like, do you hold him back for the Liverpool game? Obviously the Liverpool game's Monday, isn't it? So we'll know either way.
We're going to know regardless, right? Because Saturday is the FA Cup final, and then Brentford obviously play before us as well.
Yeah, so we will know.
So I mean, if the don't even want to speak the words into existence, but if the wrong team wins the FA Cup, all of this is moot anyway. I'm not even going to speak the idea of that team winning it. Just not even going to say the name. So but if they win it, it's got there's no 8th place is cooked anyway. And we're certainly not catching up with Villa, I think, who are sat in 7th, Forest, who are sat in 7th. It does make me laugh quite a lot that we are suddenly in a situation where we are only 6 points off of Nottingham Forest. Such a strange end of the season, right? Like a weird shuffling of players and teams. But what did you make of that starting 11? And for those who, unless you've not seen the highlights yet or match of the day or whatever you are doing, and for those of you listening on Monday, you're probably already well aware. But for Brugge, obviously in goal, Wieffer at right back, Van Hecke, Webster, in Ernest opinion, in their back 4, Baleba and Ayari in the midfield, Lamptey at right wing, Minte at left wing, O'Reilly and Welbeck in their usual spots. What did you make of that as that lineup was brought out and as you saw it take shape as the game unfolded in that first 5 minutes and kind of figured it out?
Taking shape is interesting because I think we had the chat at the time. I wasn't quite sure who was going to play where. Webster coming back in, I was very happy with because he was at the cornerstone of our very good run that we had a couple of months ago. Feels like a very different Adam Webster conversation to what we might have been having in previous years. But he's been excellent whenever he's got a chance. And you'd argue that over the season, he's probably looked better than Dunk as a whole. So I wasn't particularly upset to see him come back in. Lamptey's always a funny customer because we're never quite sure, A, which Lamptey we're going to get, and B, where's he actually going to play. And we've had this whole thing recently. It was obviously Wieffer kind of shuttling between right back and not sure where, playing all over the place. So yeah, it was really interesting to see how it fell. But I think it's one of those lineups that to an extent sort of picks itself based on who's available. Obviously we saw Hinchelwood drop out and Ayari come back in, I think, didn't we? It was a change from last week. But
we did, and Hertzler said that dropping Ayari last week was one of the hardest footballing decisions he's made in his career so far. So it felt like he was going to get shoehorned back in one way or another. But I think all of us talked a little bit about the fact that we kind of felt like Hinch could benefit from a rest, so it kind of worked out. As that first half unfolded, that first 30 minutes, it felt like it was just ping pong. No one could formulate any kind of pass success. Which is so funny because both teams ended up in the 80s in the stats, but it certainly didn't feel like that watching it. So many wayward passage, so much sloppy possession. But it looked like the game could end up being an absolute barn burner, didn't it, Adam? Like that first half an hour just looked like all bets were off. It looked like both teams could just quite score freely.
All right. So I don't know what I've missed.
We're just talking starting 11.
All right. I'm a couple of beers in, so this is going to be even worse than normal from me.
We won 2-0, so I'm not having that. You should be happy today. We still won.
No, as in worse, just content. Worse. Yeah, so
that's fine.
To be expected. It was, I think, throughout the game, I can't believe how weird it seemed from our passing quality standpoint. For not just the first half, the second half as well. We've got this sort of brand, don't we? Everyone looks at Brighton and they go, well, they play really nice football, create a lot of opportunities and chances, and we just looked really sloppy. It felt like a preseason game. That's what it felt like to me. Thank God we had defensive solidity. And I know there's going to be people talking about, you might have even mentioned the lack of Dunk and having Webster and Van Hecke in there and what that meant and what that brought about. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of discussion about Mats Wieffer. So defensively, yeah, great. That worked out nicely. But I tell you what, it was a shocking set of sort of forward and attacking play, and just creativity wise, we just saw so little. I don't know why either.
And this is a Wolves team that we talked about it a little bit, had been in unbelievable form prior to losing to Man City last week. I know, Adam, you pointed out their run was against the absolute bottom of the barrel group. It was absolutely terrible.
They were shocking, by the way, in this game. Our passing wasn't bad because of Wolves. wasn't. It was us.
It was so poor. Wolves were, yeah. Well, I think a lot of fans came out of that stadium today going, buzzing we won, obviously. 2-0 went away from home is always good. But there was just that collective shock of like, we expected a lot more from them, given the run of form they've been on. And they actually looked like they wanted to win less than we did today. And we were at our most sloppy in certain aspects. It was really poor. What did you think of the, first of all, the disallowed goal? I've still not even seen it yet. I'm waiting for Match of the Day to roll up in 10 minutes. So for those of you that saw it on your NBC Peacock and all that fun stuff, talk us through that first offside and what your thoughts were and what the commentators' thoughts were, because there was a lot of confusion from you guys as I was in the stadium not able to see anything. But when they showed us the still image, there must have been an error somewhere, because the still image they showed us was Welbeck like miles onside.
Yeah,
but Minte was marked as off.
Yeah, Minte was. So they've given it,
but he ain't in the image in the stadium image. He ain't even
yeah. So Minte is in one. He's in a position where he could be interfering with the goalkeeper where he's standing. That's what they've given it for, and it's one of those. It's one of those decisions where, you've seen them given both ways before. Becomes very subjective. I mean, there's no argument. He is in an offside position, and then you get into the subjectivity of, is he influencing?
But he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. But that's what they've given it for. He's in a slightly awkward position where he's standing and that he's quite close to the goalkeeper, but he's not getting involved in it.
I think it's one of those ones, and we've said this a million times, if the linesman didn't flag and call it on the pitch that it was offside, I think they would have just given it as a goal. But the fact they did that, and they would have to then go out of their way to basically say, no, actually, this was a clear and obvious error. That was the issue. They couldn't say it was a clear and obvious error, and they stood with what they had. It was the wrong decision, but they called it wrong first, in my opinion. Because if you watch it, there's no way the defender is going to get the ball anyway, even with Minte there. The goalkeeper wasn't unsighted by Minte, so he wasn't impacted. So it was all a bit silly. Thankfully, this is one of these ones where we get to look at this and be like, yes, it was the wrong decision. Yes, Michael Oliver is essentially one of the worst referees in football. And we move on because we got the 3 points.
Yep.
It was a terrible referee performance.
It's a very late flag, wasn't it? Though that's the other thing. It's a super late flag.
I think for me, like, the entire officiating performance today was almost let them play regardless of if they kill each other or not. There were multiple tackles in that midfield where Oliver just waved play on that just baffled fans around me, especially on Minte, who, I mean, they ended up just like suplexing him 3 or 4 times in the second half because they knew that it wasn't going to get called. They had no problem with it. And the only saving grace is Webster caught hold of that and just started doing the same thing. And he didn't get called up at all really either. It was one of the worst refereeing displays I've seen this year in terms of just, I didn't understand what their understanding of the game was at all. Like, they had no control of it.
It was the worst refereeing performance. I think maybe I'm stealing your line, Robin. The worst refereeing performance we've seen in a week. Because I feel like every week, well, this is shocking. You guys know about like Hanlon's razor? It's basically the one where you're like, don't attribute to malice something that can be explained by stupidity. And that's how I would basically describe the entirety of the Premier League refereeing officiating crew. It reminded me of, do you remember the old Pro Evos, the proper back in the day? I'm talking, this would have been what, early 2000s? And they had
PES 3, PES 4 with Kalina.
The golden day. Do you remember when Adriano was the best player in the world? You could shoot from the halfway line, it would score because he had 99. Anyway, and the referees would have different like severity ratings. I don't think you could see it, but they would just have different like some are more card heavy and some are just lenient. This referee was one of the ones that was the leniency was at 100 for this game. It was just like, just whatever, just do what you want. But it's funny in the fact that we got a penalty from that same referee, but arguably should have been harsher on Cunha.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about it then. So the goal's given as offside, and prior to that goal, it was kind of just, like I said, just back and forth. There was no defending at all. Like, there was a couple of chances that were skied, like just awful taking of chances from both ends, really. Not a lot going on. And then, I mean, run me through exactly who takes who down for the penalty, because it was at the other end of the pitch for me.
Cunha takes him down. Cunha just basically has a bit of a brain lapse, turns into Wieffer, basically. Wieffer nicks it off him, and then it's a fairly cut and dried. He's just tripped him. I know I said in our group at the time that sort of double jeopardy thing. Having watched it again, it's clearly, like, for me, it's clearly a red card because there's no cover whatsoever. And Hertzler on the TV feed was going absolutely bonkers in his technical area, also thinking it should have been a red card as well. He gets a yellow card for it eventually.
That was my initial understanding from my angle. It was miles away. I didn't even see who got fouled. I just saw the foul happen. And like, there was, to me, from my angle, like, it looked like a pretty clear, like, denial of a goal scoring opportunity that went through. And 2 nights ago, we saw Bristol City's playoff hopes pretty much ended in the first leg due to a red card based on almost, a very similar denial in the box, a similar sort of angle, really, on a Sheffield United player that got him sent off. So I was a little bit confused where that discrepancy was, but I suppose I shouldn't be giving up Michael Oliver as the referee. Now, as Adam said at the time, we do not have JP. He will be back next week, possibly, but we do not have him. Who was going to step up to take the penalty? Welbs, looking for his 10th goal of the season, most ever in his career, if he can nail it. How did you two feel as he stepped up to that, knowing that obviously it would put us 1-0 up, and at the time Fulham and Brentford were already ahead, because at that point you're already starting to watch scores. People around me were already talking about the scores there, so like, people are watching already, and we have no proven penalty taker, and Welbs, for those who knew, is literally on the verge of history as a player that's also very much beloved here. So how are you both feeling about that, and run me through?
I think given the season he's having, and I saw a stat that basically most of his goals that he scored have put us in front in a game that he scored this season so far. I was pretty confident, actually. He's just having one of those seasons where he's looking really good in front of goal. He seems to enjoy the extra responsibility of being the standing captain and the senior pro. And unusually, because normally I'd be expecting the reverse, I was fairly confident he was going to score.
Just to describe my feelings around it, it's probably best summarized by the fact that I've got the highlights on at the moment, and I didn't know if I had it paused or not when he was taking the penalty, because I felt like he froze for eternity. Like, were you? What was the feeling like in the ground when that was going on?
So I thought I heard the whistle go, and then I was like, maybe I didn't. I had enough time to go, did the whistle go?
Yeah.
Maybe it hasn't gone. Nobody else is reacting, and then he runs and takes the penalty. But it just, the Wolves fans started to boo. And then all of a sudden he just, like, boom, like, snap, bottom corner, job done. And it was just, I don't know if it was intentionally timed by him to, like, wind people up, or if that was, I don't know. But it literally was inch perfect. Of the moment the Wolves fans started to boo, he then immediately, like, shot into action and took the pen.
It was so weird. It worked. And this is the Welbeck's best ever season.
Yeah, first time he's hit 10. Well, I think he's hit 10. He's not hit 10 in the league before. He's hit 10 across a season before.
And we talked about this last time as well, because I think he's joined most assists. He's played, I think he's played more football in terms of minutes played this season than he ever has.
Yeah, 29. I think he's played in 29 games, they said, this season.
I mean, what else do you say about the guy? He's just, I tweeted this out. He's a fine wine. I want to call out one other thing as well with it. He made 31 passes today. as a solo number 9. What do you think his pass accuracy was on those 31 passes?
Didn't see many, if any, go astray. I'd be in the high 90s.
I was going to say, I'm gonna let Robin.
Because I knew you'd seen. That's why I just stepped. I knew you'd. 96.8%. I don't even know how that's calculated, but 96.8% pass accuracy, which is, I'll throw a comparison to a man that touched the ball 25 times and had a 60% pass accuracy. Can you guess who that is, Robin?
I hate these guessing games because I'm generally rubbish at them.
I think his was absolutely shocking.
It's Adam's new hate.
Oh, is it Adam's new? Is it Purvis?
No, I've got.
He's not new.
No, that Purvis. I've got 2 people in the team at the moment I'm not happy with. Matt O'Reilly is one of them. 60% pass accuracy, Matt O'Reilly. 60%. That is unbelievably tragic.
He rigged the sponsors vote last week for man of the match, and on the BBC Sport website, he's got the when you can, it's like the user votes. He's the man of the match. He's the man of the match today on the BBC Sport website.
He's the man. How many Danish fans are like tuning in?
I'm not sure because I was looking at the stats earlier, and he is the rating that he got.
Celtic in it. They got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
He won with 7.86 out of 10, and he is a full percentage point clear of anybody else. Danny Welbeck is second with 6.79. Something has gone horrifically wrong again. The sponsors from last week have just got involved.
There's no way. But on the positive side, I will say that let's talk about what happened before the goal and not just about the penalty shout. Let's talk about the fact that Mats Wieffer, much maligned Mats Wieffer, again playing out of position at right back.
Big game for him today in general.
The PTSD must be alarming. And the guy's come in and he's been clearly told to man mark Cunha to a certain extent. And he's charged up the pitch into the opposition area as right back and tackled Cunha. Like, kudos to this guy, because this is just everyone threw Mats Wieffer under the bus continually, and he didn't do himself any favor for any time he performed for the club. It looked like he was completely off it, and he has had such a different attitude, such a different set of performances in the last few games, and he deserved that today. That was his. And credit not just to Wieffer, credit to Hertzler for telling him and arranging the tactics in the way in which he was told to do that, to create that goal. If
you want to add to the Wieffer, he got booked on 48 minutes, stayed on for 90, and got better.
He did.
Like he actually got better,
terrific.
Which is an unbelievable statement.
He seemed to be
the
one who
he was almost off last week.
Yeah,
whenever we needed a little boost of energy or someone to do something in the second half, in those moments where it was kind of becoming a bit like a basketball game and someone to get control of it, he seemed just to be popping up and making the right decision every time.
Yep. I'm glad that I'm a Wieffer truther. He had a good game today, and he's got his own chant as well. We are no longer doing that Europe again chant. It's now Wieffer again. Thank God. Every time he comes up defensively. The Europe again chant was truly one of the most cursed chants I've ever seen in my time following the Albion, because I think we conceded within about 6 minutes of that chant every single game I attended. 7 minutes of added time in the first half due to just a couple of different injuries. The VAR call taking about 3.5 minutes due to the fastest ever semi-automated offside that we're supposed to be having these days. At the end of that half, 60% possession for Wolves. 8 shots, 2 on target, 3 shots for us, just the 1 on target. And that was the goal, of course. Generally, they are a team on paper that should have been comfortably in the lead in that first half. Absolute definition of a smash and grab, wasn't it? That first half, we just refused to allow them to do what they wanted to do and played ugly football for 45 minutes, and it worked.
Yeah. Nice that we can do that. Because I know we've had we've seen it in a few games under Hertzler where we've been really diligent like that and just sort of so focused on concentration and just making the right decisions. And it is a nice change from the kind of De Zerbi era where we knew exactly how we were going to play, and it sort of depended on what sort of team turned up on the day to execute those tactics. So the flexibility that we're seeing is excellent. And if we can harness that kind of thing in the majority of games, then the ceiling for this squad is higher than we are today.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I was going to say, I don't know whether this tactical change was the thing that happened at halftime, or whether it had started and I just hadn't noticed it. But when we were out of possession, definitely in the second half, Wieffer tucked in, and then we basically played a 5-back in the second half, because I think we all saw in that first half, it was a matter of time where as long as Wolves weren't entirely incompetent, they were probably going to score based on the way that things are working out. If you're looking at stats and all that kind of stuff, just be aware of the fact that a penalty XG is, I mean, God, now what is it, Josh? Like something stupid?
0.68,
0.6, yeah, something like that.
So we basically we had barely any. I don't know if we had a shot on target in the first half outside of the penalty.
We did not.
Yeah, so it was a weird old half, and I think there was an expectation that if things continued the same in the second half, that this could become undone very easily. And of course, things aren't quite that simple.
Yeah, as the Rodders the Raider in our chat, Raiders fan badge, so I'm going to assume he's a Raiders fan. Rodders the Raider said second half was mad. Both teams were going for it. And it was sort of the football in the second half that you expect from an end of season game, wasn't it? It was very open, very just balls to the wall football. About 51 to 49% possession at this point. The pass success rates even themselves out. There was a lot of tackles going flying in everywhere. 11 to 13 in just 45 minutes is absolutely mental, by the way, for like two teams to be flying into tackles. That is a lot. 17 to 25 tackles today, which is already like that in general is absolutely mental. And I mean, it was a fantastic game of football in that second half. And I don't know, about 59 minutes. The Wolves manager goes absolutely mental, makes a 4-man substitution. At the same time, the Albion also make a couple as well. Matt O'Reilly comes off for Brian Gruder, and Adingra comes on for Tarek Lamptey. Tarek Lamptey looks like he's done his hamstring. Don't know if you saw it in the footage as the TV camera, but from our point of view, he very clearly gestured that he was not happy with how he was feeling in the hammy, and then promptly
least surprising injury of all
I was going to say, I feel like his hamstring is never actually intact. It's just a case of how long until he is done again. You got to feel bad for the guy. I think it's if that is his hamstring, I don't think he ever wears a Brighton shirt again unless it's for pleasure.
Did well at right wing today as well, though, didn't he? Made some great runs in that first half. Really scared them.
Do you know what's crazy to me, though? We went into this season after all the transfers we did, and we were like, I tell you what, the one place where we have got endless depth, it's like the Mariana Trench is right wing. We're playing Tarek Lamptey at right wing. It's just crazy what a season can do, isn't it?
You're rolling out some incredible references today, though.
I told you I've had a couple of beers.
But I think we need to make this a weekly thing.
I don't know. It'll go downhill very quickly.
But I think the issue that Tarek's got is solely the injury concern, because we know that he is probably his best position is as a wing back. I think is when we've seen his absolute best performances historically. So he falls slightly in between the positional abilities that we need, but we just can't. You can't keep someone on with his consistent level of injuries. It's as simple as that.
I mean, the fact that we're playing Matt Wieffer right back and him right wing is also just. He does have flexibility because if you remember, I've lost all track of time. But do you remember he came on and played left back at one point? He was like man of the match. He was incredible at left back.
Yeah.
He scored, maybe, I don't know.
Manchester United.
There we go.
At Old Trafford, when we beat them 4-1, he played left back and was phenomenal. And then I can't remember who it was at the Amex the next week. He did the exact same. And then he lined up there again the week after and did his hamstring, was injured for 3
Yeah.
Did he play on the left at Marseille away where he was brilliant as well? He certainly won the penalty on the left hand. It was sort of left hand side of the box. He was brilliant in that game as well. He's just had. That's the difficult thing because he's had so many really good games in like big matches as well. That's maybe why we've kind of hung on to him so long, because you can see the potential and the ability is there. But every time he sort of gets close to building up like a head of steam, then you get the familiar ping of the hamstring.
Yeah, it is a shame. And unfortunately on came my other sort of player that I'm not loving at the moment in his position, in Simona Dingra. And I'll tell you what, though, I do want to point out before we talk more about the players that came there, because the other sub was the one that obviously made a big amount of difference. And I am so excited about the potential behind Brajan Gruda. It's just somewhat a shame in some ways that João Pedro is going to be coming back, because I would like to see Brajan Gruda start a game in that 10 role. And because that goal will give him a ton of confidence. But for everything that the second half promised and all of the back and forth behind it, both teams just had one shot on target each. I think that sums it up. It was just like slobber knocker of a second half. It's just two drunken boxers trying to land haymakers and just completely failing.
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 or 3 moments where we saw that ball go in. I think Bart actually made a really good save for their shot that was on target as well. But there was 1 or 2 of them where you just think, oh no. And then all of a sudden it just spoons into the sky. You just see them do it. And Gruda did it actually at our end. We were like, he broke through at one point in that second half and we were like, oh boy. And then just gone. Like the South stand were like ducking, like they were in danger. And yeah, I mean, it was such a beautiful day today as well. Like the sun was out, like everyone was getting sunburned. I think by this point it's early May in England. Like everybody's loving life in their t-shirts and shorts. So like I can imagine the people in that South stand that got the sun in their eyes are just like praying to God that a ball isn't going to come out of nowhere and just crock them in the head. And it happened like I said, like 4 or 5 times from both teams in that game. It was just absolutely smashing the ball all over the place. There was a number of times as well when it came to pass accuracy where you saw both of your teams think, I'm going to go for a proper incisive pass here, and immediately boot it out for a throw-in. It was just one of those days, wasn't it? That like it was just pure end of season vibes where there was just a lot of fatigue. I don't know about you, but I thought Minte and Adingra both looked knackered today.
Why is Adingra knackered? He's barely got off the bench.
We all said that when he was on. We were like, what is he tired for? He's not come on. Like, he's been on 3 minutes.
I just don't think he's that good, unfortunately.
No, neither do I. Stephen in the chat has a question. Do you guys think that Minte looks as good on the left as he does on the right? What are your thoughts on his performance today? It was a weird one because he was clearly asked to stay very high as well. Whereas Lamptey and Wieffer obviously weren't. Totally different plan on each side of the wing, which kind of left Purvis 3-on-1 at times in that first half, which stressed me out massively, especially when we all talk about Purvis's decision-making under a ton of pressure not being the best. Having 3 Wolves players belt at him with the ball on his own while Minte walks back to the halfway line, but irritated me a great deal. But like, what did you make of that performance today? What did you make of Minte on the left?
He's not as good. He's not as good on the left as he is on the right. I think it's fairly straightforward. Like I know he's played most of his football on the right, but you think all of his goal involvements, pretty much the ones that stick out of my head, all come from when he's been playing on the right. I mean, he's fine. Like he's a perfectly good option to have on the left, but if you want to get the best out of him, I think he has to be on the right.
Yeah, I mean, just think it's a lot to. He still doesn't truly know how to play on the right. You know, like we talked about, he's still learning his game. And so to put him out on the left and expect that to, magic to be created there is a tricky ask, especially with the way that the Wolves set up, defensively sometimes as well. So I'm not gonna hold that performance against him, because let's be honest, if Mitoma has half a leg, he will play and start on the left hand side, and we don't need to worry about this. But it does raise the question what we've talked about before, which is, when Mitoma can't play, if Mitoma leaves or whatnot, like who comes in on the left if a Dinger ain't up to it, which in my opinion, unless something massively changes in the trajectory of his career, I ain't seeing it. And Minte isn't really necessarily the guy there yet either. So I think we do have with some questions to be asked on the left wing, but I'm not going to judge Minte for that performance today.
Yeah, I agree with you both. That he's definitely not as good as on the right, and we do have quite I think if we end up selling, because I'm convinced one of the three will go out of Baleba, Pedro, or Mitoma. Convinced one of them goes. Yeah. I'm sure that money will be spent, if Mitoma is one of them, on replacing him direct. Like we don't often do like, we need to sign a direct replacement. Let's bring someone in and like build them up.
We've got Osman out on loan, haven't we? But I think he's a right winger as well, isn't he?
And he's being absolutely berated.
I did read something recently, yeah.
So like, I wouldn't hold out too much hope there. Like, I think that is one of those rare occasions where if we sell Mitoma for £100 million to Saudi Arabia this summer, I suspect we will put in a decent chunk of that, like 30 odd million quid of that in a left winger that outright starts there day one. Like, I think that is one where we will simply have to.
I'll be honest with you.
Stephen points out we've already bought a left winger for the summer, who's the Sunderland kid that's coming.
Isn't he like 12?
Yes.
Yeah, he is like 12, but
the one on loan that everyone's raving about is Malik Yakuye, right? He's the one that's supposedly doing a really good job in. Is he in the Swiss?
He's in Austria. But he's been brilliant. He was brilliant in the. I think they were in the Champions League. I think he had a few man of the match performances in the.
He was their star player. Yeah.
Is he the next in the line of succession of central midfield / defensive midfielders?
That he is.
Looks like.
They are super.
How do they keep doing it? But I'm not ready for a post Mitoma at Brighton World.
I don't think you're going to get. I don't think we're going to be there yet. I think that I think João Pedro is going to be one of the three that will go.
Well, there was an article. I mean, there was an article the other day talking a little bit about Mitoma's future, and I think we discussed. I can't remember where I discussed this, but about the idea that if we get Europe, Mitoma probably sticks around, and if we don't, obviously we had the Saudi bids last time. Real. I think there were two of them. And he was like, I don't want to go to Saudi. But all it potentially would take is just if another Premier League club comes in that's playing European football, which there's 400 this year, is he going to be able to, is he going to walk away? And I don't know if you necessarily hold it against him, right? We go back to what we've talked about before with some of the other players, the younger players. We're like, you know what? You don't need to leave right now. You've got such a long career ahead of you. Mitoma's what, 27, 28?
27,
I think so. Yeah.
So, he doesn't have forever, but
I'm looking at this Manchester City side that's just turned out against Southampton in the match of the day highlights, and there's a lot of opportunity at left wing there, fellas.
Grealish swap? Who says no? Pretty Grealish.
Yeah, probably Grealish. Yeah. We talked about this being an end of season. Adam, you even said the word slobber knocker, which I love. But two disjointed teams that were being kind of played in positions they didn't like. Just kind of two teams of like happenstance more than anything, right? And no team looked more disjointed than Wolves after a full four-person substitution, which is not exactly the most shocking thing of all time. It's not exactly the
manager's been drinking, isn't he? That's his problem.
Yeah, it's like Michael Owen analysis. I understand that. Like 4 subs was a bit too much, but it was. They looked all over the place. Brahan Gruder, however, did not. He comes on for 30 minutes. and immediately changes the game. We immediately come into the ascendancy after what is 15 minutes of pretty back and forth football. And it just continues to build as Gomez and Mitoma come on with 10 minutes away from the end of the game for Minte and Baleba. Mitoma as impact sub, not many more dangerous than him, is there? Because that's another substitution appearance now where he's came on and immediately had a difference. I mean, he got the hockey assist today, right? Like he was the touch to Idingra to Gruda. I mean, what do we think? Do we think Mitoma stays in this role until the summer, where he can decide what he's going to do with his back situation, or do you think he starts getting game time more often? And I mean, as you said, Adam, like talk us through the Gruda goal. And I mean, he was overcome with emotion, wasn't he? He was absolutely like he just collapsed.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Mitoma first, because I've just said how much I adore him as a player and think he's more than just his role at this club. I think he embodies a lot about this club for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but there's something about his attitude, the way he plays. I thought it was absolutely terrible. When he came into this game, I know you've got a different opinion. Obviously, he draws defenders, just the threat of him, but his first touch wasn't there. Like, he needs some more games, and obviously he's got this injury. Is he going to continue playing? I wonder though, with Hertzler looking at this, how important the next two games are to the future of this club. Whether he just throws all caution to the wind, is just like, no, we're playing our best players.
Well, I think it's going to come that way. I think we said it just before you joined, Adam. By the time we play Liverpool, the FA Cup final is going to have happened, and Brentford are going to have played Fulham. So we're going to know basically whether there's any light at the end of the tunnel as far as Europe's concerned. So I think it entirely comes down to what happens in those two games. I think if we get to the Liverpool game and Man City have won the FA Cup, as we hope they will, and Brentfit against
such
Fulham.
Such a weird mindset.
I know it is.
To be cheering on Man City.
It is. So either if Man City have won the FA Cup and Fulham's either been a draw or Fulham have beaten Brentford, then I think he goes as full strength as possible.
You have to. It makes such a difference.
Mitoma. And that's what I said before you joined, which was like, if they were looking to sort of wrap Mitoma in cotton wool slightly for the run-in, this was the game where you're like, we don't need to risk him against Wolves. On paper, it's the easiest of the three. If you want to rest him in one, today was the one.
This is we haven't done. We're allowed a Football Manager reference because we haven't done one for a little while. This is the one where you give your player the injection to get through the game. And you're like, oh, go on, we'll let him have. He's going to get the orange injury, but it's fine.
We'll give it. We'll let him go.
Yeah,
that is for the Liverpool one. It is going to be. It's like if we have to shuffle him out onto the pitch with someone just being there in case he falls over.
We have a dream running now, though. If it does fall our way, we have a dream running because you've already got Liverpool doing just not caring, right? We saw that a little bit last week. And then you play a Spurs team who are all just entirely focused on winning the European competition.
It'll have happened by the time we play them, won't it?
So they'll either be
Wednesday.
They'll be done either way. They're done either way. All their energy will be in that. So I mean, we really do have an opportunity. But I'm going back to the goal that you talked about. You asked about Brajan Gruda. I mean, and to be fair, Adingra did play him through, so he knows how to actually pass. But I'll be honest with you, the ball watching from the Wolves defenders was top tier, horrendous. They just walked away from Gruda. They just left him completely alone, and Adingra just went, sure. But the confidence to pull off the finish that he pulled off was just amazing. And that goes back to what we talked about before, where we're like, okay, you've got some of these players come in and you say, well, some of them, they need more game time and they'll grow into being these players. And you've got players like Gruda where you see a bunch of mistakes. And he did make mistakes when he came on. He was a bit foolish defensively and he tried to run through players when he should have just passed it simply. But he has a spark. He has that special piece to him. And you saw that from that finish where a guy that's not scored a goal, he's not been that good this season at all. And he's just like, you know what, I'll dink it. That's it. There's a special player in there if he figures it out.
I think so too. I would love to get him some starts. But as you say, it's tough, right? But I mean, I suppose there is an option there because I mean, we had a wide open hole at left wing. If Lamptey is hurt, as he may well be, like that lineup of a front four of Welbeck, Gruder, Minte, and Pedro out left, he's done it before, and he's actually got quite effective out there because it allows him to do the roaming shit that he wants to do anyway. I mean, there's your option, right, to get Gruder in the team and Pedro starting, which it's probably likely. If we have worst case scenario based on the FA Cup come Saturday, then even more reason to put him in there, right? Yeah, for me, like that's even more reason to start Gruder.
Aaron Cashin still won't play.
No,
that's fine.
I think all three of us have probably got just as much chance of starting the last two games.
Poor guy, man.
Yeah, I don't think I can't even. I don't have anything else to say about Aaron Cashin. There's nothing I've seen or heard from Derby fans that make me excited or intrigued, and there's nothing in that one cameo he made that makes me excited or intrigued. It is one of the most confusing signings we've made in recent history for me. I don't get it at all.
But let's look at what Mats Wieffer has done over the course of a season. People were sending him threats a few months back, and now he's putting in man of the match performances and getting penalties. And
he had a slightly higher baseline to work from, though, didn't he?
But you weren't his biggest fan.
No, I wasn't his biggest fan. With good reason at the time.
Oh, yeah. What we tell ourselves to justify our actions.
But I mean, I think he's someone who, if you're going to say Cashin could come good similarly, Wieffer had a solid base to come from in terms of previous experience. But
yeah, a higher pedigree, I think is I agree.
I think he's done really well. I'm glad to see Wieffer get a chance to come back in. Let me give a props here because we don't do enough. We don't talk about the opposition players enough on this podcast. We'll try to do a little bit better at that. We kind of pretend they just didn't exist. So let me start by being an example setter here. Ait-Nouri.
Yeah,
that boy deserves to play in a better football team, doesn't he? And that's not disrespectful to Wolves, but like the guy is he's 20. Yes, it is. I suppose he's 23 years old, and he is the real deal for me. Like I've never seen him play a game where I've not been massively impressed with him. And today, there was numerous times where I thought he was going to be the difference maker, and there was one or two times where he flubbed it up. Right, like. Whatever. There was 2 or 3 times where he actually played an unbelievable ball that then went sky high into the fans from whoever he passed it to, who just smashed it. I thought he was really good today again, and he scares me whenever we play them. But I just thought I would put it out there because I thought Ait-Nouri played really well today.
No, great.
I mean, they're probably going to lose Cunha and potentially Ait-Nouri. Cunha seems like it's on the wall now. The writing's on the wall with that one. And God help him if he does go to Manchester United. Because my word, what have you seen in the last decade that tells you that is the right move for your career beyond money?
Yeah, well, I was going to say there's probably like
a boatload of money,
250,000 reasons a week. Why?
It's just like I don't know, just horrible. But Ait-Nouri was excellent
for him.
Teenagers side, there's floods.
Tea ladies, ladies. The tea ladies at Manchester United that all got sacked.
They got sacked. The floods in the roof, the meals, the training all gone. Yeah, for Matheus Cunha to pocket 400 grand a week or whatever it's stupid it's going to be. But yeah, Ait-Nouri's got he'll play for it. He'll play for a top team, won't he?
Yeah, he's a good player. Guedes is one of those players that's like, he's so frustrating because he came with a really good pedigree, but he just doesn't quite seem to be able to do it.
I thought he was shit today.
Yeah, he missed a couple of good. I think he missed both of their decent chances in the first 20-25 minutes, didn't he? He missed the
Cunha
one where it
got-
was like a free kick over the top, wasn't it? Was it a free kick over the top or a long ball over the top? And he was basically free. We just
him and
decided,
Cunha had one each.
yeah, we decided not to mark him just for whatever reason, and he just had acres of space and just tried to sort of dink it over Verbruggen.
Let's talk about the defending because Darren in the chat about half hour ago now. So sorry, Darren, I didn't forget about you. We were coming for you. He said he was most pleased with the clean sheet. And it's worth talking about, isn't it? Because that's our first clean sheet, and I believe
Since Forest in the Cup.
Yes, since Forest
Which
in the Cup.
Which that was Adam Webster's lot. Adam Webster played in that game as well, didn't he? I think so.
That
He's
is
the
exactly
common
why I
denominator.
wanted-
Oh
bring it
my
up.
word! What a man!
Yeah, that is our first clean sheet since Forest in the Cup. That is the first clean sheet we have had since Dunkey came back in, which unfortunately has to be talked about as well because he was out today with a minor issue. Veltman as well.
I was going to say first away clean sheet since when? Feels like a long time.
Well, when's the last time we had a clean sheet in the Premier League? It's Southampton. It's Southampton 4-0 away. 22nd of February.
Yeah.
And we have conceded at least 2 goals since then, except until Newcastle last week. And Webster comes in. And I think it was, who was it in the chat that said it? Stephen in the chat. Just what did we think what this clarified around Duncan? I feel like we've done this to death, so there's not too much to talk about there. But he also said that he felt like Webster and Van Ecke look like they've been married for 30 years. Hell of a partnership from them two, isn't it? Like they genuinely do look like they're like fully in sync.
Let's say, I mean, we talked about at the time that run of the really good run of results that we had with the two of them at the back. That was one of the pivotal reasons why that run happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know the situation with no one really wants to admit it, really, do they, with Dunk? But I think we all know. That said, he was good against Newcastle.
It was
So let's not lose sight of that. Let's also not lose sight of the fact that Wolves were fucking terrible. So this could just have easily been a different story today if Wolves weren't completely incompetent. Adingra passed, to your point, Josh, in the chat, he passed the ball square across our own box to a Wolves player at one point, and they shot it over. Like a half
truly,
competent,
felt like I was watching a horror movie. Like it literally felt like I could not believe what I was seeing at that moment. It beggars belief. And that I felt like there was 2 or 3 of those today, though, from both sides, like where you're just like, what are that? Why did they make that choice?
But then suddenly he puts that away and the conversation goes back to, oh God, it's a shame Dunk couldn't play because we looked good against Newcastle. So yeah, let's see what happens with Lewis, but it's a shame how it's potentially going to play out.
Yeah, I think it probably comes down to him and his attitude as to how is he going to feel, knowing that basically when he's fully fit, he's not going to be first choice. It's going to come. I think it's going to come down to his attitude around that. I can't necessarily see him leaving to go somewhere else.
I don't think anyone can see that, can they?
But but he's still in theory got years in him. Like, so his option is basically, is he happy to be a bit part player here, or does he even hang up the boots and go out on a relative high?
Is Shane Duffy still at Norwich?
Yeah, he is.
Can you imagine reuniting the partnership? Can you imagine that? Play a high line.
Play a high line in the Championship with Duffy and Dunk. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that would be.
I'm with you, Adam. I don't want to see him we don't want to see him, deteriorating performance-wise to the point where it becomes just a little bit uncomfortable for everyone. Which is why I wouldn't be amazingly surprised to see him hang up the boots earlier than people might think.
Maybe. But altogether today, fantastic result, wasn't it? 2 teams that didn't really play anywhere near their best. But it's important for us to be the ones that come out on top of games exactly like this, because we have not done anywhere near enough of that this year. Big results elsewhere in Everton beating Fulham at Fulham. For me, that takes them out of the race for 8th.
Yeah,
they're now way off, really, with only 2 games to go. They are 4 points behind, and Bournemouth, Brighton, and Brentford all ahead. It's just too much for them. I think even a win against Brentford next week, they're too far behind, right? Like they're still not even catching up Brentford then. So for me, I think that's wiped them out of contention. And then Bournemouth losing to Villa, even though Villa only had 10 men for half an hour, is also another massive result in our favour today. I mean, Bournemouth were at home as well, and that's a big one. That puts them down to 10th on 53 points. Obviously, a win can change everything for them, and they're definitely very much still in it. But they do have Man City next. So by the time it comes to the end of the season, they have Leicester show up at home, where they're thinking, yep, we can romp into Europe with this one. I mean, it could all be over by then, right? Like, because they've got Man City away next week, and they've not got anything at home to Villa, where you would expect them to try and get something.
Well, they beat Man City last time, Bournemouth, and Man City couldn't score against Southampton today. So,
did you see the highlights of that? Shocking. Diaz is in tears. He literally cried.
They're not playing football. Didn't he say something like that?
He said it's awful to play against them. They don't even try to play football. They just sit back and do nothing for 90 minutes. Poor lad.
Got a point though, didn't they? Basically, they almost increased their season points total by like 9%. Today.
Yeah, I mean they have beaten Derby's total. So 07-08 Derby remain the worst Premier League team since the inception of the Premier League as we know it these days, to be the absolute dog team to exist. So that is absolutely shocking from Derby to continue that run of form. But massive for Southampton. It really is. Like for them, like that is like all they had on their minds, I'm sure. And they defended like beavers today to get it. It was ugly and disgusting, but they got it.
If you do want to have a laugh, like you go onto the Premier League website on the tables section, and you can click open the team bit. If you click on the team, and it will just show you the chart of wins, losses, and draws. Open Southampton's. Like it's so bleak to see their league position where they were dead and buried 11 weeks into the season. And there's one little blip where they beat Ipswich to get 3 points. It's just such a minus 57 goal difference, just unreal. But yeah, they're not Derby, so there is that.
I mean, I really do think it means a lot to them, though, right? Like they don't have to be associated with the worst team ever to go down. Like the annals of history are going to remember them. Like they're literally just nothing. They're not going to be remembered at all. Like not like Derby currently are. So I think they're probably a bit chuffed with that. Lot of games on tomorrow. Randomly 5: Newcastle, Chelsea, Forest, Leicester, Spurs, Palace, United, West Ham, and Arsenal, Liverpool. Not really much to play for with anyone there. Other than
Newcastle, Chelsea's a big game, though.
Yeah, that's a big game.
I know it doesn't.
On at noon, I think, isn't it? They've got them on early to get all eyes on it.
Because that race there is really tight. Because you've got Forest at 7th at 61 and Man City 3rd 65. Their draw today is really impactful to that whole race because you've got 4 teams there with 2 points between them, and then Forest a little bit further back. So that one's fun because one of those teams is going to finish 6th and miss out on Champions League football. So that's a big game.
Yeah, Adam, Noah is.
I mean, you've got to. I was going to say Arsenal, Newcastle have got to go to Arsenal away as well. One of their final 2. So they really don't want to slip up tomorrow. I don't think they finish Everton at home, which they should be all right with. But they don't want to slip up tomorrow, knowing that they'd have to go to Arsenal and likely get something.
Noah in the chat saying, Adam, I'm so glad Welbs made me eat my words from the last podcast. I've found what he said. He said that, Adam, I know you really like Welbeck, but he hasn't really done anything offensively since the turn of the year. If you'd like to send abuse to Noah, feel free, Adam, right now.
Well, no, I'm not going to besmirch. I said my piece when it was posted last time, and you're now staring down the barrel of the greatest season of football Danny Welbeck has ever played. So, what else is there?
It is also now officially our second best season in our history, points wise, regardless of what happens next. No one can take that away from Hertz's first year as a Premier League football manager. We'll talk about kind of judging that closer to the time. I don't think he is capable of. He is not. He can't meet De Zerbi's 62 because we're at 55 now, aren't we? So he can get a point behind.
Robin's like rubbing his hands on his knees right now, just so ecstatic. Like, Dad, bring Daddy De Zerbi back.
Don't. I've just had the Marseille game.
Oh my God.
De Zerbi has just jumped into the away end after Marseille qualified for the Champions League. They scored a third goal in stoppage time, and he's gone down the touchline and jumped into the away end.
Which one of the rapists scored it? Or was it one of the innocents?
One of the innocents did it.
Oh,
but
good for them. Yeah.
Big result for them. But
was helped along by some rapey individuals, though, looking at the scoreline there. All right, let's not get any lawsuits thrown our way and move on.
Allegedly.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, the run in here is a bit of a weird one because by the time we play Liverpool next week and chat on the podcast next week, we will already know before a ball is kicked at the Amex whether there's any point in kicking it. Ultimately, right? Like we are in a really weird situation where the FA Cup will be done and Brentford will have played their game of football as well. Obviously, regardless of whether they win, lose, or draw, we'll want to go and try and win that game. But if the cup result goes against us, then we're done. That's the end of the season with 2 games to go.
Yeah, well, but I still saying that I think there is a big mentality difference if you can say you had a top half finish.
I think we're all.
Oh yeah, it does.
That, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
we're not guaranteed that. No,
are we not?
No.
Fulham 4 points off.
54 points.
So they need
we're not guaranteed it. They'd need to win both of their. They need to win both their games.
And us lose both.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Noah in the chat asking how many European spots can the Prem get this year. It's a little bit weird with the teams finishing how they finish and the coefficients and the way we're winning things as like teams in the country and all that shit. Basically, top 8 are going to get European spots, Noah, unless the team that isn't Manchester City win the FA Cup next weekend. I don't even
one of United or Spurs is going to finish in the Champions League.
Yes, that is totally separate though. That does not make any difference to us in the European spots. That's a total separate.
Can we talk? Should we talk about this a little bit? Because
the greatest Europa League final in history.
It's an absolute travesty. No, I feel like it should be stopped somehow.
15th versus 16th in the Premier League.
They all should just agree not to award them the spot. Like everyone should vote and just go, nah, they don't deserve it.
I mean, I suppose that the boring counter to that is that
just have it be Al Nassr against Inter Miami.
Yeah, that'd be a bit
Inter Miami are currently being beaten by Minnesota or something right now with Lionel Messi in the squad.
I was going to say the boring counter to it is that as their Premier League season has got worse, they've obviously put more effort into the European competition. Is how they would phrase. So they'd say it doesn't matter. We gave up on the Premier League 6 months ago.
They've just played poor little poverty clubs. These 2 teams to get into the final beat a bloody team that only allows themselves to just bring in players that were raised in their region, and the other one is in some frozen tundra, and they've got about 60 quid to their name. Like the finances involved different between Spurs and Bodo Glimt. I genuinely think the ticket proceeds that Spurs might get from hosting an NFL game is more than Bodo Glimt make an entire year And that, don't quote me on that, but that sounds like it could be believably right.
Very different level of semi-final strength, isn't it, to last year in the year? But I mean, when we were there, like last year's Europa League semi-final and quarter-final, I remember us talking about it, and it's like you could have seen those teams be Champions League teams. And for those that can't remember, the quarter-finals of the Europa League this year was, and when you hear Lazio against Bodo Glimt, Eintracht Frankfurt against Spurs, Lyon against Manchester United, and Athletic Bilbao against Rangers. Now go back to 2023 to 2024. That quarterfinal, Roma against AC Milan, Atalanta against Liverpool, West Ham against Bayer Leverkusen in Xabi Alonso's like pinnacle season, and Marseille against Benfica.
But how many of those teams had dropped out of the Champions League?
Yeah, but that's the point, though, isn't it? It's just now it's for shit munchers.
I prefer it because I never used to like the idea that you would get rewarded for being terrible in the Champions League by being dropped into another competition.
I agree, but at the same time, now what they've done is they've just made it where it's a free trophy for an average English side. Let's be honest.
Or Italian. Right?
Yeah.
Because you can, or German, because you can see a team like Dortmund having an average year this year, right? Making the Europa League and then cruising through next year, right? Because that's where Dortmund are right now. They're a Europa League team.
But you also, the other thing
they come back next year. There's a cruise through into the Europa League final.
Is it not cool that you get teams like Bodo Glimt getting to a European semi-final though?
That is that is
by Ange.
But the Premier League's ruined football, though, isn't it? Because it's the same with Chelsea. Just get another free trophy. Chelsea should not be allowed in that other.
No, the Conference League was not designed to have teams like Chelsea in it.
Yeah, sure. There should be a, I don't know, like a revenue.
Well, if you're basically if your individual club coefficient is at a certain level from the past 10 years.
If you sell a hotel to buy a player on a 9-year contract, you're not allowed to go into the Intertoto Cup.
If your women's team is worth 4 times your opponent's male team, entire franchise and like everything you own, plus your entire business earnings and everything associated with it, yeah, you're banned from playing.
It's just David versus Goliath over and over and over and over again for these other clubs. It's just
Bodo Glimt, their last turnover for a fiscal period was 24 million euros.
24 million euros
for a whole season.
All right. How much? San Antonio Spurs. This isn't helping me. Okay.
I don't think it's not a wild.
Where everyone gets really enthralled.
I was going to say it's not a wild. It's not a wild comparison that you made. You're not going to be that far off.
Spurs' annual revenue for 2023 was £550 million.
There you go. So 25th of it, whatever it is. So, I was going to mention one thing. I don't know if you were going to come to it or not. I was going to mention the Tony Bloom, Dick Knight unthawing of their relationship seemingly at the players' dinner on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I thought we would go over the general thoughts and feelings of that kind of awards ceremony. I mean, let's just go wherever you want to go. Player of the season, Jan-Paul van Hecke.
Yep.
Young player of the season, Carlos Baleba.
Carlos Baleba should have got both.
Goal of the season, Mitoma against Chelsea with that touch. And of course, the outstanding recognition, whatever it is that we want to talk about. There are lots of other awards.
I think Van Hecke got Players Player as well, didn't he?
He did get Players Player, yeah. Lots of other stuff to talk, like that people can talk about. I know there's an Albion women's podcast out there somewhere, She-Gulls. Go check it out. They'll probably talk about all of that stuff as well. They've had a great season. Like, we're not anti-women's football. Like, it's just not our focus. They've had a belting season. Yeah. Love it for them. But we're also not going to dedicate 20 minutes to their awards either. But the big one is obviously the Dick Knight Outstanding Contribution Award. I mean, Robin, take it away. We all know there was some bad blood there between Dick and Tony. And I think you read up a little bit on kind of how they sneaked it, like scammed him basically.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it's it's a subject I feel relatively strongly about, because I think it's, for me, that obviously, we don't know, we're not privy to the exact ins and outs of what's happened, but it's been fairly well talked about that there's clearly some kind of falling out that took place when Tony came and took over the club. I think you can understand at the time probably why both parties felt the way they might have done. From Tony's point of view, you can imagine that he's not going to put his hand in his pocket for 150 million quid to build a stadium and not own the club. I mean, that's like, who would, like, it's completely fair. And I think probably from Dick Knight's point of view, he's gone through, at that point, what, 13 years, 12, 13 years of almost constant toil to try and get to that point. And he would have felt like he'd kind of, were it not for the banking crisis that had happened, he would have seen that whole arc through to its conclusion. So I think it's probably two people who were obviously very successful in their own ways, and circumstances have slightly pitted them against each other. So it's always felt like a slight black mark against
just one thing, because we love them both to death, but let's also be honest, ego. There's egos there.
No, there would have been. Yeah, exactly. And I think but it's always felt like, it's always felt like a slight little cloud over what's, the massive success the club has had over the last decade. It's always been a bit of a shame that, the two people who are probably the most pivotal in the club's history in different ways, seemingly weren't able to have a relationship. We've had the Dick Knight irritating people by irritating the board, I should say, by trying to sell his shares to fans through his autobiography. And then we've had the Brentford incident where he was turned away because his, shock horror man in his 80s can't get technology to work. It's not like it's not a big surprise. But yeah, I think it's always been a shame. I'm sure lots of other fans probably share the same sentiment. It's always been a shame that seemingly they couldn't be on the same page. And out of nowhere, on Wednesday, there was no sort of previous rumblings that this was going to happen. Out of nowhere, Dick Knight is invited to the Players' Awards dinner on the pretense that he's going to be presenting and effectively the award that he got, but he was going to be presenting it to Paul Samra, who, Paul Samra's deserving of a very similar award in his own right. But yeah, he was seemingly not necessarily that keen to come to the awards dinner and present this award, for fairly obvious reasons, given what we've just talked about. And from the footage, was genuinely gobsmacked when they produced this 5-minute plus montage solely dedicated to him, which is brilliant as well. If you've not seen it, go and look at it on the YouTube club's YouTube account, because
I tweeted it on the night as well. Like, whoever the Albion's media montage creator is does not get enough credit, because he, she, or they, like, whether it's one or two people or gang of them, like whatever they are, like that entity of the club is unbelievable. And they have been since the championship days.
Like, they've just been cranking them out every year. We have been
very lucky with that, because again, like, this season has had a lot of ups and downs, but ultimately, like, we're going for 8th and like a Europa Conference League spot. Like, it's not the most dramatic thing in the world. And the montage again at the end of the season was an absolute belter. Like, at the end of that,
it will be. It really will be.
I don't know if you've already seen it, but they had one at the end of.
No, I haven't seen that one. I only saw the Dick Knight one. But yeah, for him to then come up on stage and, him and Tony to have what seemed like a very genuine moment of affection between the two. Obviously, we've got no idea what has prompted this seeming, kind of sort of defrost that has gone on. But I think it's one of the most important things that's happened in recent club history, which, given what we've achieved, on the field over the last 2.5 years, is saying something. But I think it's equally as important as qualifying for Europe myself.
In terms of an internal thing, yeah, I think you're probably right. In terms of an internal structure and history of the club, like, it's up there. Like, it has to. if there's anyone worthy of a statue, right? Like it's Dick Knight. Like so
What I
like,
also enjoyed
and
was
he
if you
exists
saw
just like that.
his thing, he immediately rolled out this joke about not having a stand named after him at the Amex because he wouldn't want a one night stand at the Amex. You can tell for a man who like has obviously not expected to be in this position, he managed to blow the cobwebs off that joke remarkably quickly. But I think it was just a really nice, like, I think, you know, there are certain times over the last few years where different circumstances have made the club feel like it was a very different club to the one that we grew up with. In
Very
lots of
much
ways,
so.
right? Like lots
Yeah.
of
It
brilliant ways.
is.
It is,
But,
yeah.
no, but it's felt, you know, like in lots of brilliant ways, right? Like undeniably brilliant ways in a lot of them. But obviously, the bigger you get, you know, there's this risk that you lose a part of your soul and a part of your personality, and that just felt like a really kind of wholesome throwback to a different era. Not a better or a worse one, a different one. But I think we've probably talked about it enough. I'll get off my high horse, but it just felt like a really nice moment.
And the world is lacking in them, right? So if you're an Albion fan that is invested in something like that, and you get that surprise on a random Thursday night or whenever it was, it makes a big difference to the next couple of days. Like it was a lovely thing. Especially for those who fought alongside them, right? Like I was 8 years old, like I wasn't going anywhere. Like there's no way my dad was taking me to like dodgy, like violent things. Like, but for the people who were as old as we are now, who were doing all of that stuff, like I can only imagine what it means to them who like would directly alongside them. To pivot a little bit, but keep on the accolades. Carlos Baleba also won Premier League Goal of the Month for April with, unsurprisingly, the absolute belting goal against West Ham. What was do you guys agree on the Mitoma goal of the season or that one? Which one is your? Because I think it really is just one of two, and it really depends on what you like to see from a goal and football in general. What was
I
your,
preferred
what was your pick?
the Iari one, to be honest.
Out of all of them?
I just love those like absolute postage stamp goals that you get. I mean, it's very obviously you get that very similar.
What an absolutely heinous take that is.
So Iari's was your goal of the season in general?
No, not my goal of the season in general, but out of that and the Baleba one, I preferred the Iari one.
So your goal of the season was Mitoma's one?
Yeah.
Okay. Adam?
I'm honestly, I need to. You know how bad my memory is. I immediately want to say the Baleba one's the best one because it's the last one I saw. I'm trying to watch the Mitoma one back right now. See him. I remember him bringing it down. Yeah, it was really good. I think the Baleba one might be better.
I mean, they had the oh my god! I've just seen the offside call for Minte. Like, are you actually fucking having
That's high? Yeah, we did tell you. We did tell the Mitoma goal was excellent, but that Baleba one, I think, given the way the match had gone and the way it was playing out and the moment in time that occurred, you got to take that into account.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. If you're taking all the circumstances into it, it has to be that. Purely aesthetically, I just like, out of the two of them, I just liked Iari's one just because I like that kind of postage stamp thing. But it's a nice.
It wasn't even the best goal of the game.
We're having goal wars. All right, we'll be back next week. I'm not sure when we're going to. I mean, I guess we'll probably do another.
I was going to go. Are we going to go after?
We're going to have to.
After Liverpool. We're going to have to go after Liverpool next.
Yeah, depending
Monday.
on Adam and Craig's work schedules, I guess, as well, because obviously it will still technically be.
Oh, it's a Monday, isn't it?
Monday night. Yeah, it'll be like 5 o'clock in the afternoon for you guys. So like, we'll figure it out. But we will be back next weekend. Next week. Lots of football to consume between then and now. All of the second legs of the playoffs across the EFL. We've got a bunch of Premier League games coming up tomorrow. We've got an FA Cup final as well. which I will probably try and avoid watching, to be honest. And yeah, a lot of things will be decided between then and now. So we will be back, and I literally have no idea what the vibes are going to be, win, lose, or draw, because I just don't know what the hell's going to happen. But we will be back. We'll be here to chat about it. Spurs after that, season recap, and then we all piss off for the summer. So yeah, have a wonderful week. It's a long one for us, so just consume all the football you want and try not to worry about our situation too much, because what will be will be.
Bye-bye.